Lights, cameras, hit 'em with that action.
Here we are. We got Team Sonny of TCG. We got my brother here, Terry. What'd you do?
Went undefeated at our locals the other day.
How many people were there?
We had 10. It was a pretty decent number compared to what we usually have.
Yeah.
But a lot of tough players.
Yeah. So, what are you running today?
Played Tenyi Swordsoul.
Sweet. You want to get down in it?
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
So, starting off with the monsters, the Tenyi line, 3 Ashina, summons out any of the other Tenyi attributes in the deck, whatever it is that you need. Card's amazing, does lock you into worms for the turn, but that's completely fine because deck's pretty much worm for the most part. And then we got 3 Adhara. It's your 1 tuner that you need. I felt like maxing out on each of these is important because just these 2 in hand alone is full combo for combos in the extra deck, like with Xiaofeng and such.
Yeah.
It's really important, I feel. Some lists are playing 2, but I feel 3 Adhara is important because the recursion is nice too, because it can be banished from hand or grave if you control a normal, and add back a banished worm from back to your hand.
All right.
Then 2 Vishuddha, the board breaker essentially. Just like all the other Tenyis, you can spec it from your hand if you control no effect monsters. You can banish it from your hand or grave if you control a non-effect monster. And target 1 card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. So special summon this, link off into Monk, banish it from grave, deal with the problem, and then you haven't even committed anything.
Sweet.
Shatana. Shatana is great. Like all the other Tenyis, of course, you can spec it from hand if you have no effect monsters. If you control a non-effect monster and it is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish it from your hand or grave and bring that destroyed monster back. And if you do, non-targeting, destroy a monster on the field. So it gets around some things that can't be targeted.
Yeah.
And if it's in hand, it really surprises people. Great combination with blackout and what have you, which is
good.
fantastic. So,
Awesome.
just 9 Tenyis.
Yeah.
Swordsoul package, 2 Incredible Ecclesia, E-Telly for anything in the deck. Some builds like playing 3. Sure, it's like more names of all the other guys, but 2 is just fine for me because of deck space, and sometimes I want to heart open what it is I have. So I've got both the monster I already want, and I've got the Incredible Ecclesia, so I can make both plays.
Yeah.
That's just what it is I prefer. Then the 3 Moyi summoned, reveal a Swordsoul card or worm in hand to summon a token. If it's synchro summoned, you get to draw a card using it as material. The 3 Longyuan. 3 Longyuan, discard a worm or Swordsoul card, summon it in a token. If it's used synchro material, you burn your opponent for 1200. Really insane.
Yeah.
This card, because the tokens are all tuners, you can immediately just make Baron with this, which is amazing.
It's not bad.
Then we got 2 Tai. This card is absolutely ridiculous. The only reason why we don't play it at 3 is because it's not really what you want to open with, if that makes sense. You gotta have a 10-year Swordsoul card engraved to really utilize it turn 1, which isn't impossible.
Yeah.
Some builds have played 1 because they play 3 Ecclesia, and that's more names of Tai, sure.
Yeah.
But I'm also playing Desires in this deck, so I don't want to banish my only copy.
Right.
I've had 1 get banished, but then I have the second one to get out. So
Yeah,
2 I
good to
feel
have
is
the
right.
extra.
Yeah, 2 I feel is right. And when it's use a synchro material, you get to send a worm from your deck to the graveyard. Yeah, so that sets up so many crazy plays. Dumps the Tenyis, whatever it is that you need. Yeah, it's just really good.
Not bad.
Then the last worm, we're playing the 1 of Sawani. I saw someone at a regional on their list. They were playing 1 copy of Sawani. Fire the Yangzing because you can use it as a Yangzing fire material to make Xiaofeng and lock your opponent out of activating light and fire effects from anywhere, which prevents Fire Kings from playing, which is insane, which I had the option to do throughout the tournament.
Cool.
It's just really insane. If it's used as synchro material for a worm, it can gain 500 attack. So like Xiaofeng becomes 33. If you summon like a Shi Xiao, becomes 3,300. It's like big. So
not bad.
Pretty good. Hand traps. 2 Ash, 2 Veiler. The Veilers were really good. The Ashes were okay. But yeah, the Veiler's really good because I had instances where I had to fire more than 1 Veiler in a turn. And also, I occasionally, if all I had was a Veiler and a Tenyi, I could just spec the Tenyi, normal the Veiler because it's a tuner, make Boxia or Shishao, and just keep going. So, which was nice. Especially if I've got like an Imperm, I can save the Veiler and just use the Imperm to negate and then use the Veiler next turn.
Not bad.
Then the 1-ofs, 1 power cards, 1 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing, which is their counter trap. It's a Solemn Judgment that negates and shuffles the card that you are negating back into the deck, and then you destroy Yang Zing you control.
Okay.
So, and it's searchable. The 1 of Rivalry, just a win button against so many decks right now. Against the Fire King matchup, you wait for them to put like big Garunix on the field, or just like any Wing Beast, and then you flip that on them, and then like the Snake Eye cards can't play. If they summon a Princess, which is Warrior, I believe. I can't remember. I think she's a Warrior. You could just flip that, lock them into Warriors. They can't do anything.
Right.
They can't even fire Kieran if they, unless they have it, of course. Then two Blackout. I feel 1 is not enough because with playing Desires, again, same thing with the Taia, I always want to have 1 in deck. Plus, if you open this and you get to combo off, it's really nice because you don't have to search for it because you already have it. You can search for follow-up instead.
Yeah.
So, and when it's banished, you can summon a token. I've had to do that to get like 200 more damage difference with Ching Ying before.
Wow.
Really relevant. Target a worm you control, 2 cards your opponent controls, destroy them. Absolutely insane. Then the 3 Imperm. So that was pretty standard. Imperm was also really, really good.
Usually is.
I had a hand where I had 2 of them and a Veiler.
Not bad.
Spells. Triple Desires, because again, we want a +1 and dig through our deck, and that's part of the reason why we play 2 of so many different names. 3 Emergence, Rhoda for the deck. If you control a Synchro monster, you can add any worm instead, which is amazing. 2 Heavenly Dragon Circle. You contribute 1 worm monster and add a worm monster from your deck to your hand, but if you tribute a non-effect monster, you can special summon that worm instead but negate its effects. I've had to use that by tributing Monk to special out like Adhara to get to Abaxia before, which is like really strong.
Wow.
So, also, and even beyond that, which is really insane, this can not only, because it's a quick play, can let you dodge things like Imperm.
Right.
It can let you dodge things like Veiler, things that target to blow up, the Runic cards, and sometimes even Droplet.
Okay.
You can literally just banish this from the grave if you have, if you control a non-effect monster, except the turn you can only use 1 of the 2 effects per turn. You can banish it from the grave, search a Tenyi from deck, which is great recursion and allows you to have a good follow-up. Last 2, 1 Call by the Grave and 1 Swordsoul Sacred Summit. And Sacred Summit being a reborn for any Swordsoul monster. It can also, if you control a Synchro, you can target any worm instead. So you can bring back a Boxia, use Boxia, bring back a Swordsoul by blowing up a card, and then just loop it. Same thing with Emergence. If they're banished from the grave, you can modulate the levels of 1 worm monster by increasing it by 1 or reducing it by 1, which is relevant for some other Synchro plays.
Yeah.
And another reason why I like this over certain cards is because this is a Swordsoul card, so it can be revealed off Mo Yi, which comes up a lot.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if you don't have another worm in your hand, Mo Yi doesn't do anything, so it's just great to have. It's also another Swordsoul card that you can banish for Taia. So, I feel Sacred Summon is just insane. It's definitely needed in the deck. I just love the card. I've used it to bring back a Shishao before because it does any Swordsoul. There's no level limitation or anything.
Not bad.
Call by the Grave, which was absolutely... It won me game 2 against Drytron.
Cool.
Next for the extra deck, we've got our 2 Monk at the Tenyi. Okay. I don't really feel 3 is necessary. If you need a 3rd one, most of the time you're probably just losing that game anyways, because that means that you couldn't get past summoning a Monk.
Right.
There's just not much you can do about that. 3 isn't really mandatory in my opinion. You don't need 3. 2 is fine. The one Shaman, I did use this once to bring back a Boxio. You can discard a card, target a worm in your graveyard, special summon it, and if you do, you're locked out of any more monster summoned from the extra deck that are effects unless they are 10U monsters. So you can only use like Draco Berserker as an example for the rest of the turn out of the extra deck, but you can still use a properly summoned Boxio like in the same turn after you bring it back, which is nice.
Nice.
Next, for the synchros, we got the 2 Shishao. It's engine, it's 28. It's also an imperm, quick effect. Card's amazing. Search for blackout, search for follow up, or banish blackout from deck because it can also banish cards from deck, which plays around Droll.
Cool.
So,
that ain't bad.
the one Longyuan, I summoned this so many times against Drytron and against like certain decks, especially like the Snake Eye deck. It just spells game over for them because if they activate Sanctuary to try to get to Fire King Island, you can just banish it and burn them for 12. They can't get to Island, and if they can't get to Island, chances are they can't like loop resources with Kieran and maybe even access the Snake Eye stuff to a degree. And if they even have like a Fenrir or they summon a big boy, you can just banish it and burn them for 12 as well in the same turn. And when it's summoned on your turn and you synchro summon for another Worm Synchro, you get to draw a card. So this card does like a lot for one card.
Okay.
It is a bit more of a greedy play under Nibiru, but in game 1, like nobody's usually going to have Nibiru in the main, so I never have an issue with it. Love the card. If you summon this, you should be winning. Then we've got Ching Yang, a card that a lot of people hate. Gains 100 attack and defense for each banished card, including your opponent's. It also reduces the attack of all monsters your opponent controls by 100 in attack and defense for each banished card, so it makes a big wide gap between, so they can't like walk over something small.
Yeah.
And when a card is banished, because that's easy to do in this deck, you can non-target banish one card from their field, one from their graveyard. And if you're be destroyed by card effect, you can banish a card from your graveyard instead. So you can literally just activate, like during their turn, activate Blackout, targeting the Cheng Yang and 2 of their cards to destroy all 3. On resolution, Cheng Yang will banish a card from your graveyard to protect itself. Then on a new chain, Cheng Yang will trigger, banish another one from their field and 1 out of their graveyard.
Wow.
So, like, absolutely insane, and most decks can't recover at that point.
Yeah.
That even hits, like, Vanadium to a degree. You just banish Visas out of their graveyard and, like, what they have on field, and they're just done. They can't play.
Yeah. Not bad.
And for the Yang Zings, we got the boy that came back to 1, Denglong, months ago. Love this card. Synchro Summon, you can add a Yang Zing card from deck to hand, so you search 9 pillars. All you need is Ashina plus Adhara, and you can make this, search the counter trap, and then you've got Recursion as well, which is really good. Yazi, a lot of decks actually struggle to deal with this card because it can't be targeted by card effects.
Yeah.
And as well with that, if you summon it using Sawani, it can become a 3100 untargetable, monster, which is relevant. So like Fenrir doesn't deal with it. It's just really, really good.
King Sarcophagus can.
Correct. That's like one of the few things that can.
Yeah.
If it's destroyed, you can special summon any worm from your deck. So you can to do the Boxia Yazi loops, you could literally just use 2 10Es, get to the first Boxia, spend 2 cards, use that Boxia to bring back a Taie, banish Emergence from grave, summon a token, use Emergence when it's banished, target the Taie or the token, make them become a 3, make Yazi, Taie, dump a worm, Yazi effect, pop itself and pop one of their cards, and then when it's destroyed, summon out Moyi from deck, Moyi reveal, summon token, make the second Boxia, and then you just shuffle back another card, and you get to draw one. So that's how we pick apart boards like that so easily, and it's just insane. Then 2 of the card that everybody hates. Boxia is just an absolutely ridiculous card. It shuffles. It doesn't destroy.
bounces.
It shuffles back to the deck, which is insane. It doesn't return to the hand. It doesn't banish. It doesn't destroy.
Yeah.
It's just the best removal possible. And it's not once per turn, so you can summon both of them in the turn, which I've had to do, and just pick apart any board, basically.
Yeah.
And once per turn, you can target any card you control, destroy it, and a level 4 lower monster in your graveyard, special summon it. I've had to summon this to shuffle back a card, blow up my monk, and then bring back a Veiler so I can make Xiaofeng and lock my opponent out of lights.
Wow.
So, just insane. And then the last Yang thing, Xiaofeng himself. The card that if you can summon at turn 1 with 3 specific cards, you can lock Fire Kings and other things out of just fire and light, which is absolutely insane. To lock people out of light to go into this, all you need is Ashina and Adhara, so 2 cards, and you can just lock like Voiceless Voice from playing. Drytrons can't play. The new Lightsworn stuff that people have kind of talked about coming out, that's probably not really going to be an issue. You can lock out even rogue decks like that.
Right.
And the Sawani, sure you need 3 more specific cards, but I mean, most of these are searchable, so
Not bad.
But love this card. 2800, beefy. It can recur tuners. It can summon from the deck something that was destroyed, which is nice. So these were all the Yang things I played. Then the flex spots, the 1 Draco Berserker, the Tenyi, because if we get Shaman locked into Tenyis out of the extra deck, we have to make this. This card also just says no to Bestial, so if someone's on Dragon Link and they just fire Bestial, you just quick effect banish it out of their hand, and then they don't get a Bestial, they get nothing out of it.
Right.
It doesn't go to the grave.
Wow.
Yeah, this deck does not lose to Bestials very easily, like at all, because of 1, this card, 2, Shishao can just banish the targeted card in our graveyard to negate something else, so they lose their target and the Bestial doesn't come out. Other flex spot was Dragite. It's a water. It's a play you can do under Gozen match. It's 3k. So you can use it with the Mo Yi, because if you're locked into waters, it's something you can do because the token's of water.
Right.
And if you side in like Nibiru in some variants, you could even just fire the effect to reveal 5. It might just fire an Imperm out of their hand, out of their face, you know, out of their setback row, but what have you. Love this card. Baron to floor. You summon this typically in game 2 when you suspect that there's going to be side deck cards against you, which is what I typically do, because in game 2, if they're not boarding in, if they're not maining the nibs, they're going to board them in, and I just don't want to lose to those. So this plus if you can set up this before you combo off, like into the Denglong play, you can basically have an Omni Negate, a counter trap, potentially a blackout if you get to a Shishao as well. It's just like absolutely ridiculous. So you can just summon the Baron before you get Worm locked too, which is nice.
Nice.
Side deck. Double Droll. This came up once. Double Droll's okay. Debating on probably taking the Drolls out, because like a lot of decks are starting to play around Droll really well right now. But against some rogue, they just can't play through it. So Droll is just debatable, honestly, at this point. But it's still a good card. You could even just like Spec Ecclesia, normal summon it, make Denglong if you wanted to, worst case scenario. 3 Judgment. This is for game 2 when you know you're going first, because if you can't, if they do anything to disrupt your combo, like summon a Nibiru would have you, but you can still get like a Baron or like a Chinging on the field and maybe a Blackout. Or if you get to do full combo, this is just another basically counter trap that says no. And if you have that, 9 Pillars and Baron, there's 3 Omni Negates, there's no way they're getting through. As well as like a Shishao for like an Imperm, and if you got Veiler or Ash, like there's just no way any deck's breaking that board, pretty much.
Yeah, that saved me a lot too. I put Judgment in.
It's saved my butt a couple times as well. It stops Ultimate Slayer on my Xiaofeng against certain matchups. It's really relevant.
Yeah, I played Judgment on one of our teammates, and he was playing King Sarcophagus after he added it back after I already bounced it or destroyed it. and
He got to
got to another one after I destroyed it, and then played it, and then I judgmented it, and he was just like, "You gotta be kidding me!" And I was like, "Yep." So I ended up winning that game because he didn't have much more after that. So
it's really underrated, and it prevents you from losing to even like Dark Ruler or more, droplets, things like that, because they're never ever gonna set a trap. So like they could just send half their whole hand and just lose to a judgment, and that could just be GG. I mean, or even just like judgment the summon of a Little Knight. Good luck, you know. They use like part of their whole hand to make that.
Yeah.
2 anti-spell, really incredible card right now. Wouldn't change that.
Yeah,
just
it slows down Fire King.
Slows down Fire King significantly. Hurts Vanquish Soul. Hurts a lot of like other like tier 2 decks per se.
Yeah.
Destroys Voiceless Voice to a degree because if they can't access the continuous spell, I mean, sure, it places it from deck, unfortunately, because low can play around it.
Yeah.
But if they have to hard fire the ritual spell to do anything, it's like insane because then they just can't do anything. If they got to prep rights.
It's just like thrust too. It stops thrust like dramatically.
Yeah.
Even if they get thrust off, and
yeah.
you know you got a monster, they got to set it anyway. But then they got to wait a turn, even if it was just a regular spell.
Yeah. Quick plays even like if they like set call by and a bunch of stuff like because you had the anti spell face up, they can't even fire it on your turn. They got to wait until their next turn to even play. But if you have game like on your next turn, then you have game. That's just absolutely ridiculous floodgate. The 1 evenly, the 1-ubs, the 1D barrier, the 1 DDG, amazing cards. I did fire this against our teammate. I banished 3 of his off of his field, and then just boxy shuffle back the last card, and he had nothing at that point.
Wow.
DDG, amazing against so many decks right now. Good against Voiceless Voice because when they want to fire Saphira, they can't actually put it in the grave, which means they can't ritual summon. It also keeps them off of low to a degree, because then they can't set that up either. Of course, D-Barrier, because declare ritual against them. Against Manadium, declare fusion or declare synchro. I've had to declare synchro before against them, but then they just summon Astral out, so fusion might be better. Debatable, but depends on how much of your board you've already used.
Right.
And then more of the other 1-of per se, well, searchable 1-ubs anyway. The 2 thrust to find any of these cards, the 2 lightning storm, and the 1 feather duster. I had a game where I had both of these, and like one turn I fired evenly, and then like following turn I just fired feather duster and proceeded to combo off at that point.
That's fine.
Thrust going second, it can get you emergence, which searches anything in the deck. It can get you to basically like so many other cards in the deck.
Anything that's not continuous or quick play.
Yeah, desires. I mean, you got so many cards that aren't. It gets you a Sacred Summit if you got to bring back a Swordsoul. Desires, if anything.
Yeah, they got annoying.
Blackout.
A buddy of mine searched for evenly matched on me one time, and held on to it, and I knew he had it, and tried to play it on me, and I ended up stopping the evenly, so I ended up winning anyway. So, I mean, he used the thrust to get it, but then I ended up stopping the evenly anyway. I ended up Judgment. Yeah, I played Solemn Judgment on it, on the evenly, and he was just like, I can't play anymore. So.
I would like to briefly show just a brief combo that anyone can do with this deck, because another thing that I want to help push the channel towards right now, and I also want to address by apologizing that we haven't been able to upload that much as of recently. More content is going to be coming. Yes, we're going to consider, like, I have been revisiting Mermails behind the scenes. I've been trying different things to try and make the deck work, even in this, like, ridiculous meta. The deck, of course, does struggle, but we're going to try to figure something out, because I know you guys are going to want to see a video like that. But that's an entirely different video in itself. I do want to show, however, in this video, a brief combo in order to, again, focus on budget, because this deck is pretty cheap, and you can play this against relevant meta decks, and this is just a 2-card combo to prevent, like, to lock your opponent out of lights with Xiaofeng, which forces either a Nibiru, or protects you from Valor, or prevents like Voiceless Voice from even being able to play. So just with these 2 cards alone, we're going to activate our Tenyi Ashina to special summon itself, because we have no effect monsters. We're going to then link 1 for 1 copy of our Monk of the Tenyi, And then we're going to activate our Add Hard to special summon from our hand because we have no effect monsters. And then we're going to activate the graveyard effect of Ashina to banish it to special summon a Tinny from our deck. So now we're going to summon out our copy of Vishuda. And now we have Tuner and Non-Tuner. We're going to then Synchro Summon 8 for a copy of Boxia. We are then going to activate the effect of Boxia, targeting our Monk to destroy and our Add Hard and our Graveyard to special summon. So we're going to destroy this, summon this back. So now at this point, if they have the Nibiru, they have to use it now. Bear in mind, we haven't even normal summoned yet, and we've only used 2 cards in our hand. And if they Nibiru, the Add Hard is going to give us follow-up because we just have to control a non-effect monster, so we can still get the Ashina back and do whatever we want, even after we get Nibiru'd at this point. But in this case, we aren't getting Nibiru'd. We're just going to go ahead and Synchro Summon 9 for our copy of Xiaofang. And now we have used a Light Yang Zing. Our opponent cannot activate the effects of light monsters while this card is face upon the field. Sure, it can be impermed, what have you.
Sorry, the cat likes to be on the table.
Hey, Frank. So Xiaofang, they're locked out of light effects, and it's just amazing that you can do this, and it can maybe just give you that edge that you might be missing in your turn 1 board when playing this deck.
Yeah.
I think like people sleep on this deck. It's really good. It's really cheap, and it's something that can give you a bit of a challenge. It's also good for new returning players, I feel. So go ahead and give it a try.
Alright, was that it?
Yeah.
Is that everything you got? Now, what were your matches at? What did you play against?
I played against at round 1. Yeah, at round 1 I played against Snake Eye Fire Kings.
Okay.
Against in round 2, or I won that match 2-0. Round 2 I played against Dogmatica, Horus, Floodgate, Stun.
Yeah.
Round 3 I won that 2-1 because game 2 I lost to Vanity's Fiend.
Oh, yeah.
Round 3 I played against Drytron.
Okay.
I won that 2-1.
Okay.
And then I played against like U-Bell Control in round 4, and I won that 2-0.
Awesome. All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, this is Sonny checking out.
Mm-hmm.